Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
And good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report podcast. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting here live from South Florida on a Thursday evening. And I want to thank you very much for joining me for tonight's program. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @SamDR_NDC. Gab Hardline Minds at Sam Whitfield, Facebook.com/The Whitfield Report. And also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz, and please leave us a 5-star rating and review over there. You can also donate directly to the stream, streamlabs.com/The Whitfield Report. And patreon.com/Whitfield Report. All other links are in the description of the video below and will also be in the podcast description as well. Anyway, folks, good evening, and hope you all are well. Hello to E. Scorpio and fellow Animeta who are in chat. And I know that there are several others of you who are lurking, Mr. Whiskey. I know you're listening, Mr. That's right. But anyway. So big week, folks. Most namely, it's been a big week in the broadcasting industry. And a couple of you guys have been asking me to react to this, but for those of you who don't know the news yet, Rush Limbaugh has been, well, he's irreplaceable, as everyone knows, and anyone who has followed my show for any period of time knows that Rush was a huge inspiration. In fact, the inspiration for me starting the Whitfield Report all those years ago. And I did 2 tribute shows to Rush when he passed. And Bruce City also did a fabulous kind of montage tribute to Rush as well, so check that out on her channel as well. But anyway, the big question kind of ever since Rush's diagnosis really last year, because we all knew it was coming, was who is going to replace Rush on radio? And there were a couple of, names that got thrown around, and I don't want to bore you with all the semantics of, how that process works, but basically, Rush's show was syndicated by iHeartMedia and Clear Channel Communications, so they were basically looking for talent from that pool, basically. I bring this up because there were a lot of people who were thinking that, that Alex Jones somehow was going to take over that slot. Which, even if Alex Jones were part of Clear Channel Media, I doubt they would have someone that edgy and that controversial, especially now, Phil versus time slot. There was thinking that Levin was going to move his time slot up, but no. So, who did we end up getting as Rush's replacement? Well, we ended up getting one individual, Buck Sexton, which I know that sounds like a porn star name, but bear with me. He actually started out his career in broadcasting 10 years ago, working for Glenn Beck at the Blaze, and he had his own internet-based show on the Blaze, and then he filled in for Rush a few times, and from what I've heard, the fact that Rush kind of stole Buck as a fill-in kind of, I guess, created tension between Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh. That's just, I don't know if that's true. That's just one of those things I've kind of heard behind the scenes at different conventions, but it is funny, so to speak. So Buck Sexton is the one guy. Or as a mint condition chicken calls him, Sex Buxton, which we may have to refer to him as such on the program now. Chicken. And then the other guy who has replaced Rush, who is co-hosting the show with Buck now, is Clay Travis, who is a sports commentator. He started a website called Outkick, which is kind of the conservative, libertarian-ish alternative to ESPN. Really, it's ridiculous that nowadays we even have to say that there's a conservative alternative to ESPN, because ESPN really shouldn't be political, but they've been kind of political for the last several years, so there you go. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Clay Travis, you might not be familiar with his name, but most of you, I'm guessing, will most definitely be familiar with the incident known as, let me find it, boobs heard around the world. So Clay Travis was on CNN a few years ago, probably about like 3 years ago, and I guess this anchor had been fired from some sports show because he said something that CNN didn't like, and so Clay Travis defended this anchor and was brought on to Brooke Baldwin's show, who's kind of like the head anchor babe of CNN, or at least she was at that time. And let me cue up the clip here. But basically, Brooke Baldwin was saying, oh, this other anchor is so horrible and whatnot. And Clay Travis had this to say on the matter. So let me pull this up here. So this is the incident that got dubbed boobs heard round the world. And hopefully you will be able to understand why after this. Now, the screen should be showing up here. I don't know why it's not. Hopefully it's showing up for you guys. Now, I don't know. Can you guys see that? Let me check the viewfinder. Okay, weird. It's showing up on it's showing up on my preview screen here, but it's not showing up on the actual stream. Very weird. Let me hang on. Let me see here. Maybe I have to play the clip?
And that had absolutely nothing to do with sports. And they said, look, you can't have this opinion. It's too conservative. We're not going to allow it. I think that.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with the clip. And it's weird that it's showing up in my preview thing, but not showing up in the window. So, at any rate, though, let me just play the audio of this for you. So, the anchors here are talking, oh, isn't this one other journalist really bad for saying something politically incorrect in the sports media world? And so this is what Clay Travis had to say on that 3 years ago, and this was the incident that kind of catapulted him into fame, more or less.
And that had absolutely nothing to do with sports. And they said, look, you can't have this opinion. It's too conservative. We're not going to allow it. I think that's a bad move. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only two things completely, the First Amendment and boobs. And so once they made the decision that they were not going to allow a conservative, non-sports-related commentary, they couldn't do it either.
Hold on. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman anchoring the show. Did you say, what did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and...
Now, okay, so there's Clay Travis on the right of the screen, if you can picture this. Brooke Baldwin is in the middle. Brooke Baldwin, by the way, as far as CNN anchors go, isn't that bad looking of a dame. Go and look her up if you really need to. She's not Fox News anchor babe, but she's pretty good. And then this other guy on the far left of the screen, he's this other panelist that they brought in to kind of, say, oh my God, this anchor that has caused the controversy, he's horrible. This guy is trying not to laugh at Clay Travis's remark. You can see he's trying to he's trying to hide a smirk, but he can't. So yeah, this is what you'll see.
BWBS?
Boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history, the First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country. And so I don't think Jemele Hill should be fired, but I do think straight up that once you make the decision that you are going to let Kurt Schilling go, that you have to also make the decision that you're going to let Jemele Hill go. I think that's a bad decision. I think ESPN has made bad decisions that have led to 13 million subscribers bailing on the network. They've made bad decisions that have led to ratings collapsing. Jemele Hill's television show is collapsing. Ratings were down 20% last week over last year. I think that's why she's angry. I think that's why she went after Donald Trump. She's begging for ESPN to fire her so she can work somewhere else. Okay.
Keith, what do you think?
Listen, I'm astonished at almost everything I just heard. One of the things that, and Jemele's a personal friend, not just a colleague, but a personal friend. One of the things that Jemele's had to deal with her entire career, and many women who I am friends with in this business and have been friends with in this business for a long time, is sexism, blatant sexism, comments about her appearance, comments about her racially, comments about her inability or perceived inability to be able to comment on sports because of her gender. For somebody to come on CNN and to say something like the only thing I believe in a discussion about something.
I'm still there too, and I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. BOOZE or BOOBS? Because as a woman, I'm
as in boobs. I believe completely in the First Amendment and in boobs. Those are the only two things I believe 100% in this country. And by the way, Jemele has absolutely nothing to do with her background at all. Did you notice that? He went straight to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did go straight to that.
Why would you even say that live on national television and with a female host?
I say it live on the radio all the time because it's true, and that's what I do. Because I like boobs and the First Amendment, which is exactly what I said.
So, see, I'm not alone in those two things, ladies and gentlemen. You think my obsession with boobs is unique to this program? It's
and
not.
This is terrible for the organization. It's terrible for the fans.
Shut up,
it's terrible
autoplay. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, that's where Clay Travis got famous from. Now, that was the boobs heard around the world incident. Now, both Buck and Clay have more or less, they have taken over for Rush's old time slot from noon to 3 Eastern, and I'm not going to play the whole thing for you guys, but I do want to play a brief clip of their first show that debuted on Monday, and I was hoping to get the now it's showing up. Okay, now it's showing up. Now I want to share this tab, but it wouldn't show up when I wanted to do the Clay Travis thing. Okay, weird. So I'm not going to play this whole thing, but just to give you kind of an idea, here was their first monologue. This was from the first episode on Monday of the Buck Sexton and Clay Travis show. So, clip number 1.
For so many years. Because we know that all of you out there listening right now, there is an element of fear in this country that I think for generations we have not ever actually had to deal with. Placing of one of the greatest individuals to ever do radio, if not the greatest individual that has ever done radio in the history of this medium. And that's why we're consistently not ever going to say that we are replacing Rush Limbaugh, because no one is ever going to replace Rush Limbaugh. But what we are going to do is continue the fights that Rush Limbaugh fought so eloquently and so spectacularly for so many years. Because we know that all of you out there listening right now, there is an element of fear in this country that I think for generations we have not ever actually had to deal with. And I think there's a huge number of you out there right now listening to us who have picked up your phones at some point in time, thought about sending a tweet, thought about posting something on Facebook, thought about sending something on Instagram, but you are so terrified about what might happen if you share your actual opinion that you didn't do it. And if you haven't had that thought, I guarantee you that you've had that thought about your kids or your grandkids or someone in your family and worried that if you actually say what you think, you are going to find yourself in the midst of a cancel culture storm. And we are here. This is one of the great things about the platform that we have. As big tech is strangling down and circumscribing what everybody can say and what they can't say, as there is a overwhelming atmosphere of censorship that is descending across the country and continuing to grow, Buck Sexton and I are so incredibly excited and so incredibly grateful to be able to talk to all of you every single day and help to fight the battles that Rush Limbaugh fought for generations, for decades. And we are going to be the voice for many people who do not feel like they have a right to share their voice. And we are going to be the absolute most honest show, I believe, anywhere that you are going to find in radio or any other medium. And one of the reasons
that this show is going to continue to be so powerful is in an era when so many people, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon, so many places out there are keeping you from being able to be exposed to the truth and to the facts. Radio, it's an old medium, Buck, but it's one of the most reliable out there. We're going to be able to talk to all of you directly and help to make, I really do believe this, the country a better, smarter place, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to be able, I believe, to win a lot of the battles that matter going forward.
Now, some of you may have heard my voice before, and I bring it up just because I had the incredible good fortune 7 years ago in 2014 to fill in for the late, great Rush Limbaugh, and then a number of times afterwards. I bring it up because one thing that Clay and I have been absolutely dedicated to from the very beginning here is that we understand that there's a mission. We understand that there is a fight ahead. It would be hard to think of a more difficult time in living memory in this country for conservatives to feel like they're getting a fair shot in the marketplace of ideas. That in this culture war, we're not seeming to just cede ground every day. And what was Rush? Well, he was a valiant warrior for his cause, but he was also in military parlance. I know there are a lot of you out there who are current or former military. He was the great force multiplier. Rush Limbaugh is the reason I do talk radio. Rush Limbaugh is the reason so many others across the country are even in this medium. He was the one that we all look to. He was the leader of this movement. And there's a whole generation now, or multiple generations really, of people who are taking up the fight for conservatism because of what Rush Limbaugh stood for and what he meant. So we show up here in this studio together, Clay and I, every day trying to do honor to that memory. And we understand that this is something that is sacred to all of us and to all of you. We will be your advocates in this. We will be the people who try to spread the message of conservatism across the country and continue on that work of Rush as a force multiplier, as somebody who inspired so many others. It was a huge break in my career and a huge moment in my life when I got to sit at the mighty EIB mic 7 years ago. I couldn't have thought at the time that here I'd be sitting with Clay and now on hundreds of stations across the country trying to take up the mantle, trying to continue on in that fight. My great hope here is that we will make all of you proud, that we will make the memory of Rush proud, and we'll do everything that we can to fight for this country that we love so very much. And you will be a critical part in that process. Your phone calls, your emails, your notes to us. We want this audience to feel as interactive as possible with us throughout the course of this show because we are here to represent you.
And I actually got mentioned on Twitter by, I'm not sure whether it was Clay or Buck who was replying to me on Monday, but I followed their official show account, and I do tweet during the show when these guys are on, or at least I did this week. They also have a free audio podcast on Apple Podcasts and other places as well. The reason why I bring this up is because, you know, people have been asking to react to this and how I think, you know, they did. So let me just say this. For their first week so far, and it's only Thursday, they've done pretty well. I, really up until, really Apex took over, as, not really took over, but came on kind of as a co-host, I was doing this show solo mostly. I had one other co-host of the show before when I first moved here to Florida, and then he had to move on. But you know, I've been pretty much, you know, doing radio solo for a while, and you know, then that like I hadn't too many like radio shows that were co-hosted, but I like their dynamic. The thing that I find interesting about Clay Travis is because he is initially a sports guy, I think kind of mixing politics and sports, they shouldn't go together, but unfortunately, it seems that now everything is political, which we'll get to more of that in a sec. But so far, I think these guys have a really good chemistry with each other. And, yeah. Steely is saying Apex took over the show. Confirmed. Well, who knows? There might be a day when I need to take a Saturday off or something, and instead of canceling the show, I might just leave it to Apex and Whiskey to co-host one of these days. I don't know. That could either be a very good idea or a very bad idea. I'm not sure which. Oh, and by the way, thank you for subscribing, Croco10. Good to see you in the chat as well. So overall, I'm optimistic for what this show, how it's starting off. And Scorpio made a comment that is, even though it's kind of against Rush, it's funny. So they're going to fight an oxy addiction. Rush did kick his oxy addiction though, Scorps, but still that is pretty damn funny. I'm just curious to see if this will last or whatnot. I can already guarantee you that some of our other right-wing grifters are I can tell you for sure that Crowder is upset that he did not get Rush's golden EIB mic. Why Crowder would be upset? I mean, I can figure why he'd be upset, but why he thinks he even has a shot at the mic is beyond me. He didn't even work. He didn't even work for the same company that Rush did. So, well, Whiskey, maybe I'll have you on as co-host and give Apex the night off at some point. Who knows? Also, thank you for subscribing to the channel, Walter Klondike Benjamin. And also thank you for subscribing to the channel, Steely. Alright, so, first week mini radio show, I think, first week mini radio show is bumpy, but I think so far they've done a good job, and I'm curious to see how they go on in the future. And I guarantee you that at some point they're going to get in the news for something. Boobs Heard Around the World actually made headlines again because someone dug it up from Media Matters and brought it up. And everyone was like, yeah, that was 3 years ago. And as far as I know, Clay's position hasn't really taken. And for all of you who are now wondering, I did not steal the I love boobs thing from Clay Travis. I mean, I like boobs too, but that's just a fact. I didn't steal the bit. I didn't steal that from him. So, yeah. Come to think of it, eScorpio brings up a good point. Steely, how were you? I thought you were subscribed. You mean to tell me that you just you mean that you just kept showing up here but never subscribed? And yeah, I probably did wrench you to upset you. Which means I can't unwrench you because that's what you want. No, we love Steely. We love all of our mods here at the Whitfield Report, quite frankly. So yeah, new show, and I'm optimistic, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes within the next, year or so. I'm sure I'll be bringing up stuff that Clay and Buck say, I'm sure I'll be mentioning them in the future for sure and their takes. Anyway, though, speaking of sports, though, this is another topic. So Thursdays we do Pop Culture Thursdays, and so I just covered the new era of excellence in broadcasting thing. And by the way, Clay and Buck have also kept the EIB moniker, so that's cool because my hat is still somewhat current then, I guess. But in a kind of shifting topics, unlike Clay Travis, who has talked sports radio for years and years, I seldom bring up sports on the program. I like sports, but as far as topics to cover on the show, I'm not into stats or players or really any of that stuff, at least when it comes to the show. I follow sports casually, but I'm not really into it enough to follow the show directly, to make a sports podcast necessarily. With that being said, there was a story earlier this week that got mentioned in the news that everyone has been talking about, and that's that Carl Nasab, who got signed on to the Los Angeles Raiders, and the LA Raiders are basically, well, they used to be the Oakland Raiders, but they're still the rival team of my home team, the Denver Broncos, right? So I'm not a fan of the Raiders to begin with, but earlier this week it was announced that Carl Nasab, who I guess is, let me see here, show notes, oh yeah, so LA Raiders defensive end Carl Nasab, he came out as gay earlier this week. Now, look, as far as sports goes, ladies and gentlemen, I honestly don't really care if someone is gay or not. There's been all sorts of fanfare from ESPN that has come out about this. They've been running headlines about how Carl Nasab is the first openly tight end defensive end. And Joy Behar actually got in trouble because she made a joke about the defensive end and running it up the rear now, which, just to show you how absurd things have gotten, the cancel culture mob is now going after her, which, look, I'm not really, it's a joke. I'm not a fan of her or any of the other hens on The View, but my God, she made it. She made a joke, so she shouldn't have been canceled for that. What's interesting though is about 2 days after the story of Carl Nasab coming out as gay surfaced, this also surfaced, and I am now going over to Chris Stegall's Facebook page. So this was sent to me by a friend who sent me this because they thought this would be interesting to cover. So Carl Nasab comes out as gay, right? And it makes national news. It's a big thing. He's getting adulation from the national media. And then what happens? Well, someone goes through his Instagram feed and finds a picture, damn it, of him basically wearing a American flag do-rag on his head and a Trump shirt. And the shirt reads, Legends are born in June. And it has a picture of Trump on the front. Again, I don't know why this isn't showing up tonight. Let me turn off studio mode here. Okay, there, that should go. So this gets posted, and he goes from being like a hero to basically the media goes silent. All of a sudden, the fanfare stops. Now look, is this really newsworthy? No. I just find it funny that at first the media is all like, oh, he's a gay football player. How wonderful. Let's plaster him all over let's plaster him all over CNN. Let's plaster him all over all the news websites. Let's report on this every 2 minutes. This is the biggest story in sports media of the year. It could even be the story of the century in sports. Comes out with this. He is a Trump supporter. He's not the one wearing the shirt, right? But he's the one kind of on the side here wearing the do-rag. And his other friend is wearing the shirt. But I mean, the implication is pretty clear. He's one of those evil Trump supporters, right? So now the media is silent, more or less, on him. Now, look. I could honestly care less that he's gay, straight, a Trump supporter, a liberal, whatever. As long as he can play football on the field, that is ultimately what matters. That's what it should matter. Yeah, Whiskey says, you're not the gay we're looking for. The reason I bring this whole issue up is it does show hypocrisy on Mita's part, right? As Whiskey said, you're not the gay we're looking for. It also brings up something that I mentioned a few years ago, which is Colin Kaepernick, right? The reason why conservatives, myself included, find Colin Kaepernick so annoying isn't so much that he is a Black Lives Matter activist and whatnot, although that is part of it. But if Colin Kaepernick were doing his Black Lives Matter, thing off the stadium, I wouldn't have nearly as much of a problem. But the problem I have with Colin Kaepernick is he is really the first one that I can think of, who brought his politics outside of the sports world and on to the football stadium. And not only was he kneeling for the flag, but then he got others to kneel, during the national anthem. He was wearing socks that said, like, cops are pigs and whatnot. He was making political statements during the game. And that to me is uncalled for. I mean, you could argue that Tim Tebow doing the Tebow thing was kind of the same. Some people have made that argument. It's not the same. He was, praying before the game. He wasn't making a political statement necessarily, and he wasn't even saying that, like, I'm better than any of the fans because I pray on the field. That's not what it is at all. But Colin Kaepernick politicized the NFL in a major way, and football went from being something that everyone could sit around, on the couch on Sundays, and the only rivalry that really mattered was the rivalry between sports teams, right? And Colin Kaepernick went and, changed that and made it so that, sports became, and more specifically football became another political tool for them to use. It stopped becoming about, football, and it started becoming, well, we need to talk racial issues. Because if we can't talk about racial issues if we can't talk about racial issues on the football field, then when can we? Let's see. Let's see. Someone mentioned Caitlyn Jenner in the chat. I want to make sure I get to that. Yeah. And Teddy Spaghetti is right. They are pushing. Well, that's all another topic for another time. I might get to that on the Saturday show. Since the Saturday show is a little bit more political. And I honestly, actually, you bring up a good point, Teddy. I haven't brought up the, I actually haven't brought up the Caitlyn Jenner thing in California really at all on this show before. So if that's a topic that you guys would be interested in, I would be all down for covering that. But yeah. And Larry brings up a good point. The gay Republicans have been around for a while. But yeah. So, in regards to Carl Nasab, as far as him being gay, I could care less. I still hate Carl Nasab, but not for the reasons you may think. Like I said, I could care less that Carl Nasab is gay. I hate Carl Nasab because I'm a Broncos fan. And yes, even though the Raiders have moved from Oakland to LA, that doesn't change anything. I actually liked Oakland better when they. I actually liked the Oakland Raiders better when they were in the Oakland Raiders, because LA just seems like such a shit city in general. I've made fun of LA several times. But anyway, so yeah, that's my take on the whole Carl Nasab thing, for those of you who are wondering. Now, final, I guess, story of the evening. This is one that actually I just kind of found last night. This does dive a little into politics, but not that much. So I actually saw this last night on Twitter, and I retweeted it and said, this is a holy shit moment. In fact, let me see here. I know I have it on my timeline. Basically, if any of you guys follow me on Twitter at @somebody_NDC, a couple of you have probably saw what I tweeted last night, which essentially, well, here's the crux of the matter. Rose McGowan went on to Tucker Carlson's show last night to talk about Brittany Spears basically being abused by the Hollywood system. Now, let me cue this up on YouTube. Hold on a sec. So, let me see. So this was from last night on, this was from last night on Tucker Carlson Tonight. Rose McGowan goes on to make a big announcement on Tucker Carlson regarding Brittany Spears. And I'll explain why this was a holy shit moment in the media last night. So let me get this queued up first off. Okay. Alright, so just to kind of set up some pretense here, so one of the reasons why this is so amazing, just to start off, is because Rose McGowan is on the far, far left, and Tucker Carlson is on the more conservative side. Some have identified him on the alt-right, although he really isn't. So the fact that even on the same show, like, that's a whole big thing in and of itself. But this kind of more or less seemed like a cold call segment that was on Tucker's show last night. Kind of unexpected. And so let's just roll the tape and watch this for yourselves.
As we told you at the top, right before we came on the air tonight, we heard that the actress Rose McGowan wanted to come on and talk about something. We've never met Rose McGowan before, but we're completely open-minded. We just learned it has something to do with Brittany Spears, who we've not interviewed since she was literally a teenager. But apparently, we have just read she's been under a conservatorship for the last 13 years, and this has been in the news. Flew under our radar, but it has been. And Rose McGowan has been watching it, too, and has thoughts about it. She joins us now. Rose McGowan, thanks.
Okay, one criticism I have of Tucker is, why does he always refer to himself as we? we have interviewed Rose McGowan. Tucker, I haven't interviewed Rose McGowan, so there's no we. I get why you use we when talking about you and your audience, but no, you interviewed Brittany Spears 13 years ago. I didn't. Just a nitpick there.
Come on and talk about something. We've never met Rose McGowan before, but we're completely open-minded. We just learned something to do with Brittany Spears, who we've not interviewed since she was literally a teenager, but apparently we have just read she's been under a conservatorship for the last 13 years, and this has been in the news. Flew under our radar, but it has been, and Rose McGowan has been watching it too and has thoughts about it. She joins us now. Rose McGowan, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Hi, Tucker. Nice to meet you too. I also have an open mind.
Well, this is my favorite quality in a person. Thank you. So I'm coming at this cold. I, again, haven't seen Brittany Spears since 2003. I just read she's been under conservatorship. Make the case, if you would. What is it, and why is that bad or good?
Well, in my opinion, and in many others, it's bad. Imagine you're a 25-year-old young woman or young human who has been forced to perform since as long as she could walk to support her family. Yes. Her father put her under conservatorship at age 25. Many in the media laughed and scorned her when she shaved her head. I lived in Hollywood during that time, and I've made it my life's mission to tell all of you out there what so many of you really know deep down, that fame and Hollywood and the media machine are rotten to the core, and they do hurt and they do damage. At age 25, her father and a judge ruled, with many paid-off doctors' help, that Brittany Spears had dementia. So, since then, she's gone on to do a 5-year residency in Vegas, 2 shows a day. She's gone on a tour in 2018. And what happened today is literally a cultural landmark moment. It is a cultural reset. She got to speak for the first time, I believe, in her life, honestly and openly. And what has been done to her is horrific. And I know it seems like, why should we care about a rich pop princess, right? But I think it's deeper than that. And I think it goes to what you talk a lot about, which is the rot in the machine and how society also plays a part in a weird form of oppression.
Man, I mean, you've pushed all my buttons, I have to say. I mean, the idea that the individual is crushed by forces larger than her and that deep down it really is rotten, and that people are treated as disposable objects rather than as human beings with souls. I mean, that's all on display every single day. So, pardon my ignorance, but quickly, conservatorship means she can't make basic life decisions for herself?
Absolutely none. She can make no decisions. When she sees her kids, what medicine she takes. She said today, Brittany Spears said they put her on lithium. That is an incredibly helpful drug for some, but a hardcore drug. She said she was doped out, I'm summarizing, and she, I think, is ready to blow the lid. She said
she was probably also molested as a kid. If you, I mean, hedge your bets, I guarantee you that there was almost a, there's like a 97% chance that she was molested when she was a kid. I'm assuming, especially, she was one of the Disney kids in the 90s, and a lot of them have come out and said that she was, that, they were all molested. Now, this could be the start of one of two things. I'm hoping that this is the former rather than the latter. Hopefully this will be the start of some actual, people in Hollywood getting asted for some of this, abuse and pedophilia and, trafficking of people. Or Rose McGowan could be going the way of Corey Feldman, where he just, and what Corey Feldman does is he simply LARPs. Corey Feldman famously claims that he was molested when he was a child actor. It's gotten to the point with Corey Feldman where it's kind of become his LARP now, and he keeps like fundraising money for all these documentaries and whatnot. Scorpio here in the chat has actually kind of followed the whole Corey Feldman pedo hunter LARP here for the past few years. So I'm curious, Scorpio, I don't know if you're still in chat, to know what your thoughts on this is. Do you think that Rose McGowan is LARPing or what? And also, quick side note, Tucker, you need a different default face other than awkward stare buddy, because that's your default face.
She's so angry, it's insane. And I understand that kind of rage after being sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything. I'm listening intently.
Oh, sorry, I heard something. So, the thing is, I was the first one to go on the record about Harvey Weinstein and that kind of sickness, and the people that are truly putting your entertainment in your head. And while we've all been entertained by Brittany Spears, she's been being tortured. And I know it seems like one person, but they've done this to women and humans and whistleblowers and people they don't like. And really, like you said, Tucker, the people, the monsters in power that control the puppet, not just her, but like the message it sends to every girl or every boy out there that you are disposable and the elite can own you.
So I think it matters. I do. I think the individual matters above all.
Yes.
And if they can destroy one person, they can destroy everyone. I know nothing but what you just told me, but I think you make a really compelling case. I love that you care. And I'm really glad that you came on tonight. Rose McGowan, thank you very much.
I'm honored. Thank you, Tucker.
So will this be the next...
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
shut up, Sean. So this begs the question: will this be the next? Will this be the next grift? Or is this going to be legit? I'm curious. I'm hoping it'll actually be legit, but I'm not sure. The reason why I think this is kind of a holy shit moment, and the one thing that makes me think that this might be real is the fact that, like, Tucker and Rose McGowan are ideologically, like, different. Like, she's vehemently anti-Trump, and as Adam Carolla has also said in the past, Rose McGowan, and see, here's the other thing. Rose McGowan kind of has a reputation of being a crazy lady. As Scorpio points out in chat, which I did not know this until Scorpio pointed this out. Apparently Rose McGowan identifies as Mexican. And we all know how Scorpio feels about that, don't we? So, it could be a LARP, it could be real, folks. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the chat or in the comments or tweet at me. And so, without further ado, folks, I think that will do it for tonight's program. Saturday night, I'm going to be doing a show, hopefully with Apex. And I want to dive deeper into the New York City mayoral race. I think there's some very interesting stuff happening regarding that. Joe Biden made a stupid remark about the Second Amendment, which I will also cover on Saturday. A lot of Biden stuff. As I told Whiskey in private chat the other night, be prepared for me to use the word Biden and dementia during the next couple of shows a lot. So much so that you can almost make a drinking game out of it. Also, I'm not sure if we're going to do this yet, but I'm hoping to be able to put together a 4th of July celebration stream for the Whitfield Report. So if any of you would be interested in participating on that, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Parler. If you follow me on Discord or know how to get in touch with me over there, do so. I would love to, celebrate the 4th of July, just have a casual stream over there. And, we'll take it from there. But anyway, folks, thank you all for tuning in tonight to the Whitfield Report. I want to thank you all for tuning in. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good night. God bless. God save this great nation. And God, freedom, legacy in that order. I'll see you on the next episode of the Whitfield Report, which means I'll see you guys on Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a good evening.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.